Hello viewers, Super GT here once again. Now, the first thing you might notice is my voice. I am dying of death. So if I die of death halfway through the video, you know what happened. Okay, anyway, let's get on with this. So this is race B of the week, Group 3 at Sardinia B. And it's an interesting race this, because we're going, you could call it the wrong way around the track, because this track is normally run the other way around, and it was actually really hard to get used to this track. But as you can see from the title of the video, learning from the very best, we've come up against an extremely quick player in TX3 Marcus, just up ahead. Now, often when I go into these races, I kind of just, I do a couple of qualifying laps, set a okay, decent lap, and then just go about racing, because I just love racing. I just want to get into the races and get on with it. But you'll see over the course of this video that often it is the case that you should take a bit of time out to study and to qualify better and to learn from the better players. And that is exactly what we're going to do across the course of this. And it wasn't really, this was going to be one of those episodes where I tried to beat the fastest car as we skip ahead a lap there. You can see how far away he got. He did a 20.0 in the race, which is pretty much top 10 in the world pace, and he did it in a race, not even in qualifying. On his first flying lap he did that, a 20.0. My qualifying lap was a 20.5 for a reference. So it just shows you how ridiculously quick that is. So this video is only going to be one of those beat the fastest car videos, but it turned out a little bit differently than I originally intended. So there are the results. Driving the AMG, and the main thing here, to save the replay, let's go and have a look at how he did it. How is he so good? So let's go in, go on board, turn on all the information, and let's skip towards lap number 2. So this is the lap that he absolutely blitzed me. So he's already got ahead of me by nearly a second, and then he's going to come across the line here. This is the beginning of the 1 minute 20.0 lap, which is absolutely rapid. And the first thing I noticed as soon as we started the race into the first corner, look at that line coming through that first the sort of entry into the first corner, all over the grass, 2 wheels on the grass, 2 wheels on the curb. So that can save you quite a lot of time just by doing that. Here, going out very wide, and then coming back for that very late apex. It's a very deceiving corner, because it kind of tricks you into turning in really early, but you can actually turn in really late and get a good drive off of it. That one, again, as close to the barrier as possible. You see the gap is already opened up here, and here was something I learned. He was staying in 4th gear through here. I was shifting up into 5th, but when you go up into 5th in this car and the Audi R8, it kind of bogs down a little bit. So staying 4th up the hill. Absolutely planted to the inside apex through that left-hander. Here as well, look at that, perfectly on the apex. Power to the outside using the curb, and then a couple of corners left on this lap. So he's absolutely flying. He's really absolutely nailing this. And this isn't even a qualifying lap. This is just in the race. So the fact that he can just nail these laps consistently in the race under pressure, or under some pressure, is absolutely ridiculous. So there's the 20.0. He actually did a 20.0 and like a 20.1, 20.2, 20.1, 20.1. So he was consistently up there. And it turns out he is the #1 in the world. So just by some coincidence, I happened to just race the #1 player in the world. So I wanted to watch his Audi lap as well, because I wanted to improve my qualifying lap. Improving your qualifying lap is one of the best things you can do to improve your results. 1, because you start further up on the grid, of course, and then 2, because you just become way more familiar with the track, and your consistency improves. So we're going to do that here. We're going to do a load of laps, build our consistency, try and beat our 120.5, as you can see on the right hand side of the screen. So the first lap was a 21.6. Second lap smashed into the wall, but at least I know I'm pushing the limits. Right, okay. Fifth lap, a 120.7. Laps 8 and 9, you see there, 120.3 and 120.4. Coming across at the end of lap 10 to do a 120.3 again. So the consistency is there now. Let's take a look at this lap, lap number 11. So you can see here, taking that line across here, you can see where my tyre marks are. 2 on the grass, 2 on the tarmac. Just grazing this curb, power out nice and early. Just grazing this curb on the left hand side, and you're turning in just before the end of the curb on the left. Off the throttle, the front digs a little bit, and then braking just at the left hand side on the edge of that curb, and that's going to carry out wide, cut back in for that late apex. On the power before you hit the curb, the power down the hill. It's hard to get a braking point for this one, but just come over to the right hand side. Pretty much as you get to the end of gear 3, you kind of just want to start braking at that point. Here, just keep over to the right hand side, minimise the distance travelled, over back to the left hand side, and remember stay in 4th gear in this car, in the AMG and the Audi. Back over to the right hand side, and here it's just really a matter of keeping the car nicely pitched. If you aggressively downshift and aggressively brake, the car will lose control, it will slide. So you want to avoid that. So just nice and smooth off the throttle. You can coast through there just for a sort of half a second just to keep the car settled. Just over as you go over the crest, that's where you brake, and then nice and slowly let the car pivot. You see that I was coasting. That kind of lets this car pivot. So this car is really weird to drive, the Audi R8. Just turning in after this point on the left hand side at the end of the grass, and then off the throttle a little bit as you hit the apex to keep it kind of pointed in nicely, braking before the shadow, keep it nicely into that apex, and then using all of the blue on the exit, and that's a good lap. But yeah, this car is very weird to control. Sometimes you can coast it a little bit and it will kind of pivot the car a little bit more through the corner, so you can get a really good steering angle. And there it is, a 120.2. So my last 4 laps there, a 20.3, 20.4, 20.3, 20.2. So really good consistency, and you can see there it's taken me a good, 11 laps to get to that point. So it kind of shows you the amount of time you need to put in before you get really consistent. So let's see if all that hard work will pay off with a decent result. So the second place up against number 1 in the world. Okay, that's not a bad result, I suppose. But let's see if I can go and win a race. I'm going to drive the Audi R8. So it is a tricky car to drive, especially to drive it consistently for 5 laps without making a mistake. But let's see if we can do that. I mean, task 1 really, and the main thing I suppose from pole position is as long as the guy behind isn't right on your tail within overtaking range, just do what you're doing in qualifying. Just focus on your braking points. Don't worry about the person behind. They're going to worry about you because you'll be pulling away from them. You're quicker because you're ahead on the grid. And if you could just know your qualifying laps that you were doing, if I could just do those 20.3s, 20.4s, 20.2s in the race, I should be able to fly away and should win. That is going to win most races, unless of course number 1 in the world just happens to turn up and absolutely trounce you. But barring that scenario, you should be fine. So the main thing for me really is just trying to build your consistency. So get fast and consistent laps, and that just gives you the confidence for each race. Because a lot of the time I kind of go in, I do like 3 qualifying laps, and I go into the race thinking, yeah, I know this, I know the track, I'm an expert now. And then I'm not quite sure where I'm braking, not quite sure where I'm accelerating, not quite sure which gear I'm using. So you see there we nailed off, we nailed a 20.4 first lap, a 20.6 and another 20.6. So that kind of shows you the consistency is there. It's obviously not quite as quick as it was in the qualifying. And here, this is another lesson, right? I pushed too hard. I was trying to go for like a personal best. I was trying to get lower than a 20.2, and I started pushing too much, and I started trying to brake later than I should. Trying to brake a little bit later, a little bit deeper into the corner, trying to save a bit more time. And you see here, it just turned into a scruffy lap. So I think the main thing is really just stick to your braking points, stick to what you know, stick to what is best, and be consistent. And you won't make silly mistakes like that. Eventually it did turn out to be a win, 60 wins on the Ram Shadow account. Ram for money, global takeover is gaining traction. We're going to get a little bit brave here and go for the Ford Mustang of all cars. We're going to give this a go. And to throw a spanner in the works, I'm not on pole position. So this should be interesting. I'm surrounded by R8s. So in a sense, this video perhaps is still beat the fastest car, beat the R8, because I'm surrounded by them. So let's see if we can beat it. So let's keep it nice and solid through turn 1, as the Spaniard most certainly doesn't do that. Does the exact opposite. Drives himself straight off the track and hands me the lead. Okay, so here it's kind of similar to the last race now. Let's just pretend I was on pole position. Get your head down, hit your braking points, and just don't get pressured into doing a mistake, basically. So already, I'm not sure what's going on there, but the Spaniard's already down to 6th place. I guess he wants to be the Spanish Super GT. And I'm already 1.7 seconds ahead. Now that might seem like a really nice gap to have this early, and it is, but don't get complacent, because within 2 laps they could be back in slipstream range, or within 1 lap they could be back in slipstream range. If you make one little mistake, you lose 3 temps, then another mistake and lose 2 temps, bang, they're back in that slipstream range, and then you're in trouble. So don't get complacent, just get your head down and churn out those quick laps. So the main thing here, we're in a different car, so I have to adjust slightly. This car, it doesn't brake as well, it doesn't quite turn as quickly as the Audi R8, so you do have to be a little bit more patient. At the end of the race, it was another win, as everyone just, I don't know, bottled each other around the edge, I don't know. But I got even braver here and went for the Nissan GTR, busting out the big boys. Here it is. So we have an even bigger spanner in the works, and that is David Perel, a real-life GT racing driver. Very quick on this game. There he is, lurking ominously in the, well, behind. There he is. He's right behind. We're going to go on boards with him. Well, not really on board, but chase cam boards. On chase cam? On his chase cam? How, I don't, however you say it. We're on his chase cam. We're on my bonnet cam. Get wrecked, sim elitist. Camera view elitists. Get wrecked. Anyway, let's go on with the race. So boom, taking that grass line. Lawnmower GT here. So we're going to go on board with David. He's driving the R8, which you'll see. Look at the difference here. He takes a very different line through here. The R8, you'll see through the corners, is much better than the GTR, but the GTR is quicker on the straights. So this is a key difference. As long as I don't make a mistake, he probably won't be able to overtake me on the straight, because my car's quicker on the straight. So he's relying on me kind of making a mistake. And that kind of is the way things go often when it's a top speed car versus a handling car. It depends on the track as well, because this track is actually fairly tricky to overtake on. So if I don't make a mistake, there's not much he can do. But there is quite a lot of pressure. You know, David Perel's very quick, and typically is quicker than me. He's normally faster than I am, so there's quite a lot of pressure knowing that he's normally faster than I am. So trying to stay ahead of him is no easy task. But let's see if we can do that. End of the first lap, half a second ahead. He's still in the slipstream though, so there's not much I can do. It nearly went up to 0.6 of a second, the gap. But in fact, the gap's staying about the same. It just shows you just how quick this car is in a straight line, because he's got the slipstream. Typically he would be gaining, but this car's an absolute monster in a line, so he wasn't gaining as much as he would like. So really here, I'm just glancing at the gap on the top left of the screen to David, and sometimes on the radar, but you don't want to take your eye off the ball too many times. You want to kind of focus on your braking points, on your turning in points, and really just nail everything. And maybe now look at it, now look at the gap, because you're on a straight. This is something I spoke about in my guide on how to get better at this game. One of the things that I was doing wrong a lot was I was looking at the wrong thing at the wrong time. So I was going into a corner looking at the time gap. It's like, there, don't do that, because you don't need to know the time gap when you should be focusing on your braking point. So definitely try and focus on the right thing at the right time. Only glance up at the gap at the right, at sort of when you have a little bit of a time gap, a little bit of a gap to do it, namely on the straights. Best place to do it. So final corner, nicely hooked up. This car is actually, it's chunky. It's a big boy. You know, it's got a lot of force, down force. It's chunky, it's meaty. It's got some proper meat on those bones, but well, that means it doesn't turn quite as quickly as this Audi R8. You see the Audi R8 is very sort of a streamlined, light-looking car. You see how quick he gained on me through that corner, through turn 1. Gained maybe a tenth or two through there alone, but still isn't quite close enough to go for that move. Taking this narrower line, and I was admittedly maybe a little bit too wide. And I just see him crop up into that radar momentarily, but just keep it together. I've got the measure him so far, although he is definitely as close as he has ever been. So the pressure is building, and you know when someone's this close behind you, you do know about it. But again, it's really just a case of trying to stick to exactly what you know from qualifying. I know where I'm braking, I know which gears I'm using. Don't let the person behind you pressure you into doing something that you shouldn't do. Braking a little bit too late, braking a little bit too early, using the wrong gear, taking a defensive line when you don't quite need to. So this is something you can only really learn by just doing it, just by being in the front with people behind you. It's hard to kind of practice being under pressure, other than just being under pressure in these kind of scenarios. So he's very close this time, 0.4 behind. Is he going to gain this time around? Not quite. It just shows you again how quick, how much of a boost this GTR is in a line. Okay, 2 laps to go. If we did a 20.8 and a 21.0, so not scintillating laps, but this car certainly is not going to be as quick as the AMG or the R8. So it's always going to be tricky to get those mid to low 20s, let alone a 19. But then again, number 1 in the world wasn't even doing 19s in the race. That's pretty much impossible, nor near enough impossible. So down the hill onto the middle straight. So still very close, but I'm not handing him any opportunities. I'm not missing any braking points. I'm not making any mistakes. And this is just really the key of this video, basically. I learned what to do in the qualifying. I studied the best driver. What was he doing? What gears was he using? What car was he using? Where was he braking? What lines was he taking? And then I just hammered it home during the qualifying. During the qualifying, did 11 laps. Got the consistency drummed into my mind, and now I can kind of do this race robotically without really thinking about it too much. It just shows you kind of need to have that time to yourself, just to get some qualifying behind you. So 1 lap to go, and David, despite being very close the entire time, you see his lap times there, 20.9, 20.7, 20.9, very consistent, but it's not quite enough to trouble me as he goes a little bit too deep into turn 1, and I just take a quick look behind. I can see that time gap left hand side of the screen just go over the second. As we take a look back at David, you can see there the gap has definitely opened up. He's going to have to severely gain on this final half of a lap. We'll go for lunge of, I was going to say of the millennium, but it might have to be lunge of just forever. Lunge of the best lunge of all time ever. It's going to have to be that or nothing. So up the hill, we still got the second gap. It's not going to happen, I don't think, unless I make some catastrophic error. But look at this, guys. Look at this, ladies and gentlemen. David Perel throwing in the sickening 360 no-scope overtake. This guy gets baited in, and he undercuts him on the way out. Absolutely savage. When you know that you can't win the race, just throw in a 360 no-scope for no reason. What a beast. This guy. That's absolutely scintillating skill. To be honest, I should slow down and let him win now, because that was just absolutely awesome. But I'm going to come through, and I'm going to get congratulated by Toto. Get in there, Lewis. Fantastic drive, mate. Even though I'm driving for Nissan, but hey-ho. Things are different now. There we go. The GTR come through for another win. It's no coincidence that I got 3 wins after doing a lot of studying and qualifying, basically. There's the basic gist of the video. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching. And yeah, do check out David Perel's channel as well. I'll link it in the description. I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching, guys. Goodbye.